Sachita House, you can start.
Yes, ma'am.
Shall we start now? Am I
Yes,
audible?
yes, you can start.
Good morning, everyone. Today, we welcome you all to the house activity of Sachita House. I also thank you all for giving me this opportunity to conduct this event on behalf of my house. Now you will witness the life stories of the iconic figure that the soil of our country has bred. Sadat Hassan Manto and our Auntie Janbai. We all are very happy about your esteemed presence here, and I request for your full attention. Here we start with Tijan Bai.
कर पा रहे हैं वाकई इससे बेहतर श्रद्धांजलि दूसरा बोले कौन आ गए अरे देखिए तो कर्मचारी बोले अर्जुन करिए भगवान कृष्ण से मुझे कहना है
I am getting old. I have a problem with my hearing, but I can't put down my tanpura yet. As long as people turn up to hear me, I will continue to sing. Such strong words by a bold woman. She is none other than the Padma Vibhushana, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan awardee Tijan Bai. She is an exponent of Pandavani. Pandavani is a folk singing style involving narration of tales from the ancient Indian epic Mahabharata. Bhima, the second of Pandava, is the hero of story of this type of style. Tijanbai was born on August 8, 1956 in Ganyari village, which is 14 km of Bhilai. She was daughter of Chunuklal Pardi and Sukhvati Devi. She belongs to Fardi scheduled tribe of Chhattisgarh state. The Pardi tribe earns by catching birds, gathering honey, and weaving mats and brooms. Tijan was oldest of five children and unlike her sibling, did not go to school. Brijlal Pardi was her maternal grandfather, who used to recite the Mahabharata written by Chhattisgarhi writer Sablal Singh Chauhan. She was inspired by this and she soon memorized much of it. And later she got trained by Ummeed Singh Deshmukh. Her senseless rendering of epic, her rustic charm, and peasant like simplicity have made her immensely popular not only in Chhattisgarh but all over the India. Thank you.
The story of Tijanbai's personal journey is almost as compelling as her artistry. As we all know, Tijan was the daughter of a Parthi tribal couple and oldest among her five siblings. As a girl, she was expected to stay at home and look after her siblings. And also, she didn't get a chance to go to school. Like young children love to run, chase, and play around, Tijan too was fond of singing and playing kabaddi. She would sing while helping her parents weave and toil in the fields. But her mother never approved of her singing. Whenever Tijan's mother caught her singing, she would be beaten. Tijan says, I was locked up and not given any food. Sometimes she would put her hands around my throat to try and choke the music out of it, but I didn't stop. Tijan learned the art of Pandavani from her maternal grandfather, Brijlal Parati, who also got many a tongue lashing for encouraging her. In an interview, she told, my mother would say to him, can't you find some other girl to teach? Back then, a girl performing on stage was seen as an object of ridicule and abuse. But none of this could stop the spirited Tijanbai from achieving what she wanted, and all she wanted was to sing.
Not only was she disowned by her community for singing Pandwani, her marriage life was also not a great success. None of her marriages succeeded due to the stubborn attitude of the society towards her art. Her first husband already had two wives when she married him. When he decided to marry the fourth one, she stepped out. Her second husband, Tukaram, liked her singing and fell in love with her. At that time, Tejun hit the road of fame. Neighboring villages started inviting her to sing for night performances as Pandwani is generally sung after dinner. Her absence from the house at night was not liked by her husband and led to marital discord, and her performing on stage was condemned. Tukaram started beating her and one day assaulted her mid song. This led to a great fight, a huge fight, and eventually ended their marriage. The couple separated, Tejan retaining the custody of her three sons.
Though Tichenbai today represents the best in folk art in this country, but like her personal life, her professional life and career, despite the laurels, has not been all song and dance. Firstly, let's talk about her career in a job. She was employed by the Bhilai steel plant after her return from France in 1985. Tijan was first appointed as a nominal muster roll laborer. After confirmation and 4 years in service, the Padma Shri recipient was still only a grade N3 junior artist. Her salary was rupees 1200 and her job was to dust furniture, serve water, and run errands for officers of the community development departments of the plant. But Tejan admitted that her boss tried his utmost to harass and humiliate her. Tejan took all that and more, and the public indignation on the issue and its spillover in the Madhya Pradesh Assembly forced the authorities to transfer Tejan to the Sports Recreation Council of the plant. It's a better placing, but yet the fact remains that it took a public outcry to effect it. And even currently, also, she is employed there in addition of doing Pantvani performances around the world. Now, her career as the leading Pantvani folk artist. Pantvani is a popular form of art and includes improvisations and narration of stories from the Mahabharata. The performer enacts and sings with an iktara or tambura or sometimes a kartal. Her maternal grandfather, Brijlal Parthi, was a Pandwani singer and Tejan started learning from him. Then she got informally trained under Umeed Singh Deshmukh. And at the age of 13, she gave her debut performance in a neighboring village, Chandrakhuri, for rupees 10, singing in the Kapalik Sheli or style of Pandwani, a first time for a woman, as traditionally women used to sing in the Vedamati or the sitting style. Contrary to the tradition, Tejan Bai performed standing, singing out loud in her typical guttural voice, an unmistakable voice, entering what was till then a male bastion. Her performance stood out as she performed standing up in her characteristic gravelly voice. Within a short time, she became known in neighboring villages and invitations poured to perform at special occasions and festivals.
Habib Tanveer, a theatre personality from Madhya Pradesh, noticed Tijan Bai's talent. She was called Delhi to perform for then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. She was put up at Ashok Hotel for around 13 days. Then finally the day came in her life. Indira Gandhi invited her to Teen Murti Bhavan and honored her. And she had some conversation with Indira Gandhi. Indira Gandhi asked her, "आप तो छत्तीसगढ़ में महाभारत करती होंगी?" Tijan Bai replied, "मैं सुनाती हूँ." Then Indira Gandhi turned to Habib Sahib and said, Who says Tijan Bai is uneducated? Within a time, she received national and international recognition. From that day onwards, she exhibited her art in front of many specialized people in this country and abroad, and after that, her fame began to skyrocket.
Tijan Bai is an exponent of Pandavani, a traditional performing art form from Chhattisgarh in which she enacts tales from the Mahabharata with musical accompaniments. She has been awarded a number of times for her art. In 1987, the first award she got was the Padma Shri. Then the list continues. She was awarded with with Padma Bhushan in 2003 and honorary doctorate into letters from Bilaspur University in the same year. Sangeet Natak Academy Award in 1995 given by Sangeet Natak Academy, that is India's National Academy of Music, Dance and Drama. M.S. Subbalakshmi Centenary Award in 2016 and the Fukuoka Prize in 2018. Last but not the least, Padma Vibhushan in 2019 by the Government of India.
Her influence on others' life. Although she was married at 12, expelled by her family and community, lived alone in shabby hut, but her powerful determination to perform Pandwani and to lead her own life has made her an inspiration for women living in Indian society, and she has passed on her great courage to help them go on with their lives. Her success has given courage and encouragement to women and those suffering from repression. In Delhi, for a Meet the Masters series hosted by Sangeet Natak Academy, even though Tejan was clearly not in her element due to bad throat, but that did not prevent fans from jamming the small halls where her work was being documented. Anupam Ranjan Pandey, a Bastar based scholar and music activist, said the reason why Tijan Bai made a big impact was because her storytelling connected Puranic heroes and heroines to the soil where she performed. They became local characters, people whose sorrows and dilemmas everyone could identify with. And what she did was a powerful one women theatre. Dr. Tejan Bai, a Padma Shri, Padma Bhushana, and Padma Vibhushana awardee, addressed the mentees and mentors of the GOAL program, Ministry of Tribal Affairs, and Facebook India. Lavanya Karthik, a pioneer in creating engaging books, has come up with Tejan Bai, the girl who loved to sing, a biography of world renowned singer who is an exponent of Panmani. Her life has thus provided a contribution that goes beyond the world of musical art. Her influence has extended to cover social aspects as much else besides. Thank you.
Now, our next presentation will present the life story of Sadat Hassan Manto.
मेरी जिंदगी में तीन बड़ी घटनाएं घटी हैं। पहली मेरे जन्म की, दूसरी मेरी शादी की और तीसरी मेरे कहानीकार बन जाने की। लेखक के तौर पर राजनीति में मेरी कोई दिलचस्पी नहीं। लीडरों और दवा फरोशों को मैं एक ही नजर से देखता हूं। लीडर और दवा फरोशी दोनों पेशे हैं। राजनीति से मुझे उतनी ही दिलचस्पी है जितनी गांधी जी को सिनेमा से थी। गांधी जी सिनेमा नहीं देखते थे और मैं अखबार नहीं पढ़ता। दरअसल हम दोनों गलती करते हैं। गांधी जी को फिल्में जरूर देखनी चाहिए थी और मुझे अखबार जरूर पढ़ने चाहिए। मुझसे पूछा जाता है कि मैं कहानी कैसे लिखता हूं। इसके जवाब में मैं कहूंगा कि अपने कमरे में सोफे पर बैठ जाता हूं, कागज कलम लेता हूं और बिस्मिल्लाह कहकर कहानी शुरू कर देता हूं।
यहाँ सादत हसन मंटो दफन है। उसके सीने में फन अफसाना निगारी के सारे असरार रमूज दफन है। वो अब भी मानो मिट्टी के नीचे सोच रहा है कि वो बड़ा साना निगार है या खुदा। Born into a middle-class Kashmiri family in Ludhiana on 11th May 1912, Saadat Hassan Manto, a Muslim journalist, short story author, and Indian film screenwriter, was indeed one of the greatest short story writers of Urdu literature. His mother, Sardar Begum, was the second wife of his father, Khwaja Ghulam Hassan, who was a sessions judge in the government of Punjab's Justice Department, and had spent considerable time in educating the children of his first wife. This had little time for Manto and his sister, and the sidelining of Manto's mother and his father's stern approach towards Manto are often perceived to be the reason behind Manto growing up to be a rebel. He briefly studied in Aligarh Muslim University, and under the influence of the scholar and writer Abdul Bari, he was introduced to Russian and French authors. His subjects tend to be those on the fringes of society, whether he was writing about prostitutes, pimps, or criminals. Manto wanted to impress upon his readers that these disreputable people were also human, much more than those who cloaked their failings in a thick veil of hypocrisy. Thank you.
Manto's career in Bombay. In 1936, Saadat Hassan Manto came to Bombay and started writing for magazines, newspaper, and scripts for the then Hindi film industry. He resided in Foras Lane in the very center of Bombay's red light district of Kantimpura. His surrounding profoundly impacted his writings. In early 1940, he returned to Delhi and joined All India Radio for Urdu service, which was a golden period of his career, as it proved to be quite rewarding to him. During this time, he composed over four collections of radio plays, namely Teen Auratein, Janaze, Manto ke Drame, and Aao. Alongside, he continued with writing some of short stories and completed his next collection, Dhua, followed by the title Manto ke Afsane, and his first topical essay collection, Manto ke Mazamin. In 1942, Manto resigned from his job in All India Radio and returned to Bombay and resumed his work with film industry, where he wrote screenplay for films such as Chal Chal Re Naujawan, Mirza Ghalib, Shikari, and Aat Din. During this time, he associated with his Aligarh friend Shahid Latif and his wife Ismat Chugtai. In 1945, his sum of short story collection published, which has the following stories: Kali Salwar, Boo, Chugad. In 1947, till the partition, he stayed in India. In 1948 January, he along with his family moved to Lahore, Pakistan, against his intention due to brutality of communal riots that resulted due to partition.
हिंदुस्तान जिंदाबाद, पाकिस्तान जिंदाबाद। इन चीखते चिल्लाते नारों के बीच कई सवाल थे। मैं इसे अपना मुल्क कहूं, लोग धड़ाधड़ क्यों मर रहे हैं, इन सवालों से मुख्तलिफ एक जवाब था। एक हिंदुस्तानी जवाब, एक पाकिस्तानी जवाब, एक हिंदू जवाब और एक मुसलमान जवाब। कोई इसे 1857 के खंडहर में ढूंढ रहा है, तो कोई इसे मुगलिया हुकूमत के मलबे में टटोलने की कोशिश करता है। सब पीछे देख रहे हैं, लेकिन आज के कातिल लहू और लोहे से तारीख लिखते जा रहे हैं। ये मजनून सुनाते सुनाते आप सबसे मार खा लूंगा, लेकिन हिंदू मुस्लिम फसाद में अगर कोई मेरा सर फोड़ दे तो मेरे खून की हर एक बूंद रोती रहेगी। Manto on the chaos of partition. After partition, Manto felt deeply disturbed by the intolerance. He could not accept the fact that some people saw him not as Saadat Hassan, but as a Muslim. He was disillusioned when he learned that Ashok Kumar, with whom he worked at Bombay Talkies, had been receiving hate mails accusing him of being responsible for the induction of Muslims into the company. His desires to flee increased. Finally, a conversation with his friend come actor Shyam made him feel guilty, disillusioned, and offended. And without any further ado, Manto quickly took the side lane to Pakistan. Once, Shyam and Manto heard some Sikh refugees narrating their dreadful violence experience. After hearing that, Manto asked him, "Look, I am a Muslim. Don't you feel like murdering me?" "Not now," Shyam replied. "But At the time when I was listening to the story of Muslim cruel deeds, I could have easily done you. Manto wrote, Shyam's words gave me a jolt. When I pondered over the thoughts, world of difference between this world and that, it helped me to understand the psychological background of the gory in events in which daily hundreds and innocents of Hindus and Muslims were being to death. Manto was never comfortable with his migration to Lahore and always suffered due to the sense of dual belonging. In 1953, he had to be admitted to an asylum following hallucinations about his life in Bombay. He was not tied to the city for its historical, cultural, and intellectual reasons, but deeply attached to it because it had asked me no questions. It had asked me to when he was 7 years old. Me, a man rejected by his family, a gypsy of temperament. I was in love with Bombay. I still am, quoted Hassan. Manto has graphically narrated his migration to his Pakistan in his story Sahai. Manto's lack of investment in any political or ethical standpoint initially may disturb. It translates into a tone that could be read as cold or detached. But it is his detachment, his refusal to linger over anyone other than other, which allows us to be thrown into the confusion and terror of partition. For that is perhaps what the experience of the partition was like, raw and immediate, with little sense of depth and time and space, with little sense of meaning of Hindu or Muslim or India or Pakistan. Partition was the turning point of the history of subcontinent above. Manto did not believe that religion was divisive force and blamed the hunger for power and political indecisiveness of a handful leaders which robbed people of their homes and their hearts, of their memories, of their sheer belief in humanism. Such writings establish partition as a human tragedy rather than a political one, an aspect most cherished by the historical discourse of the event.
Contribution in literature world by Manto. Manto was a prolific Indo-Pakistani writer who published 22 short stories collections and other writings during his career. Manto often wrote about societal issues that he felt hindered humanity. The books he read inspired him to start several translation projects, including the translation of The Last Day of a Condemned Man by Victor Hugo. He translated it into Urdu. In 1934, after working for a small news publication, he attended Aligarh Muslim University in India. He studied writing and literature, meeting several important influences along the way. During his time in college, he wrote short stories, with one being published in Inqilab Pasand. In 1934, Bari established his weekly literary journal Khalq in Lahore. Manto's first short story, Tamasha, was published in the same journal. This story was about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, in which he described his own experience of witnessing at the age of 7 the anti colonial struggle in the subcontinent. He wrote all types of short stories, including radio plays. Between 1941 and 1943, he produced 4 volumes of radio plays. He also began publishing our short story collections. By 1945, he had written and published the short stories Dhuwa, Kali Shalwar, and Boo, which would later be collected in 22 short story volumes. From 1950 to 1955, Manto wrote countless short stories, personal essays, plays, and screenplays. Atish Pare was his first anthology, which he dedicated to his father.
Saadat Hasan Manto was often accused of obscenity in his writings. His sharp response to critics was, "If you can't bear these stories, then the society is unbearable. Who am I to remove the clothes of this society, which itself is naked?" I don't even try to cover it because it's not my job, that's the job of dressmakers. Manto was far ahead of his time. His stories have a strong sense of observation of human behavior. He used simple but powerful language. But unfortunately, his writings were accused both in India and Pakistan for containing obscenity and pornographic content. He was accused three times in British India before 1947 when he wrote Kali Salwar, Dhua and Boo, and three times in Pakistan after 1947 for his short stories ऊपर नीचे दरमियाँ खोल दो and ठंडा गोश. But the only time he was fined was for the Thanda Ghosh story. Now, talking about Thanda Ghosh and the controversy surrounding it, this is the most significant trial Manto faced in Pakistan. In this story, Kulwant murders her husband with a dagger because she suspects him of infidelity, and while dying, Isha tells Kulwant that he broke into a house of Muslim and killed six men and abducted a young girl. While forcing himself on her, Isha realizes that the girl's body was cold and she was already dead, hence the title Thandagosh. The controversy around was not only about explicit portrayal of Kulwant's anatomy, but also with its involving necrophilia. Here, Manto pictures the ugly reality of post-partition violence, mainly the sexual abuse of women, with remarkable detail, shaking the consciousness of his readers. Now, talking about the trial and the verdict, Saadat Hassan Manto was found guilty of circulating this obscene piece of writing, and he was sentenced to 3 months rigorous imprisonment and a fine of rupees 300 under section 292 of the Pakistan Penal Code.
At the age of 42 years, 22 collections of short stories, 3 collections of essays, 5 series of radio plays, 2 groups of personal sketches, and a chunk of film scripts. This, in itself, is a great contribution in such a short span of life. Now, I would like to throw light on recent reflections of literary personalities on Saadat Hassan Manto's work and life. One commentator compared work of Saadat Hassan Manto to D.H. Lawrence, partly because just like D.H. Lawrence, he wrote about taboos of Indo-Pakistani society. In the last 2 decades, many stage productions were done to present his character in conflict. Danish Iqbal's stage play, Ek Kutte Ki Kahani, presented him in a new perspective on the occasion of his birth centenary. On 18 January 2005, the 50th anniversary of his death, Manto was commemorated on a Pakistani postage stamp. On 14th August 2012, which is Pakistan's Independence Day, he was posthumously awarded Nishan-e-Imtiaz by the government of Pakistan. In 2015, Pakistani actor and director Sarmat Khusat made and released a movie Manto based on his life. In 2018, the British Broadcasting Corporation named his story Toba Tek Singh among the 100 stories that shaped the world, alongside works of authors like Homer and Virginia Woolf. In 2018, a Bollywood film Manto was made by Nandita Das, starring Nawazuddin Siddiqui, based on his life. On 11th May 2020, Google celebrated his 108th birthday with a Google Doodle.
Manto's influence on the world. Manto brings to the forefront people on the margins of society in terms of their gender, class, profession. Particularly noteworthy is his empathy for women like prostitutes who were othered by society. He portrays his characters just as the flawed humans that they are and is not apologetic about it. Manto's stories were radical in their own time and are still radical. Manto does not shy away from the idea that women have sexual needs, their own sexual vision that has nothing to do with love, says author and academic Preeti Tanuja. In My Name is Radha, a male character is raped by a woman, while in Thanda Gosht, a sick man returns home and gets stabbed by his wife during sex when he confesses to raping a corpse. Manto's stories are still relevant today, even the ones based in Partition. Although it happened 75 years ago, wounds inflicted at the time have still not completely healed. Also, it would be foolish to forget the kind of horrible things humans are capable of doing to their fellow human beings. These are things we should be learning from, lest we repeat the same mistakes again. Akhri Salute tells the story of Rab Nawaz, a soldier of the Pakistani army in the Kashmir War, right after partition. He failed to make sense of the war he was fighting. The sight of familiar faces, who were once his companions in the World War, were now his enemies. All that made him forget for a moment what he was really fighting for. While in Toba Tek Singh, Manto uses mental asylum as a metaphor for partition era to show just how mind-boggling, full of confusion and desperation it was. We can empathize with the dilemmas his characters faced, probably reflecting Manto's own conflicted state of mind on the issue. He showed a mirror to the society, revealing its dark and ugly side without partisanship or blaming any religion in particular. He was a warrior of freedom of speech, who did not hesitate to state things just as they were, even at the cost of offending a few people. His letters to Uncle Sam are a tongue-in-cheek commentary on the Pakistan of the time. All ages require writers and journalists with enough strength and conviction in their pens and thoughts. Thank you.
With this, we come to the end of our presentation. I hope you all have enjoyed and have made a mental note of it. And you all must have learned from it. Thank you all for a patient audience. And I hope you all appreciate the collective hard work of Sachita House. What you witnessed was really their efforts and hard work. Thank you.
Okay, it was a fabulous performance by Sachita House. Like, seriously, guys, you performed it really well. My heart is filled with tremendous joy after watching all the presentations today. I am sure everyone learned something today from these presentations. I would like to make a big round of applause for all these houses for their presentations and their hard work. Now, I would like to thank you all the house members and their coordinators for such beautiful performances. A big thank you to all our teachers for your support. I hope you all enjoyed today's event and learned something new. Now, I would like to hand it to Ruchi ma'am to continue the further attendance. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.